What is your singing style? Do you have one? I am Katti Power. I am a vocal health expert and a performance coach. I am the founder of a vocal health method that prevents voice loss and vocal fatigue. And I've spent the past 20-ish years helping performers achieve amazing goals that they set for themselves, all without ever losing their voices. Today, I'm going to talk about vocal style. We're going to talk about why you need it and the 3 kinds of styles that can keep you from achieving your goals. Pretty important stuff, right? It's one of the things that so many singers pass over in their singing. They don't think about it. They don't think it's important. They don't develop any kind of style. And we're going to be talking today about why you need it and what some of the traps are that you can fall into that will get you into trouble in terms of achieving your goals. It'll keep you actually farther from your goals if you embody these other 3 styles that we're going to be talking about. Style is typically what attracts us as listeners to the singers that we most like. We may not be consciously aware of that, but if you think about it, you'll discover that it's their style that's what draws us in the most. Almost all the time. I've shared a lot, you've heard me talk a lot about identity and your power type and the importance of knowing who you are and showing up that way in full force as if you're like a walking billboard of that, of who you are and how you want others to see you. Well, your style is kind of the part 2 of that. Your style is how you express that to the world, not just physically in how you show up, but also how you sing. Style, like I said, is what draws listeners in to you and makes them want more. It's what makes them want to hear more of what you have to offer. So today I'm going to be sharing 3 types of styles that singers often embody that can get them into trouble when it comes to achieving their goals, because it pushes them farther away from that goal. And then over the next 3 weeks, I'll be breaking down each one of these different styles for you in detail, why it's a problem. So before we get into that, there is another type of singing that I don't even consider, well, no one's going to consider a style. And it's another thing that it's another kind of trap that people fall into. And that is what I call default singing, default voice, which is singing with 0 style at all. So a lot of times this is something that a beginner will do. Will just sort of learn the notes, learn the melody, sing with absolutely no sense of style or making it theirs at all. So that, we're not going to be talking a whole lot about that. We're talking about the next 3, which is sort of the next level of the traps that people can fall into. So let's talk about them. Are you ready? And here's something I want you to do. If this is like jiving with you and you're like, oh my God, I totally relate to this, I want you to tell me in the comments which one of these 3 that we're about to talk about you think you might be, if any of them, right? So 3 styles that can get you into trouble. The first one is the copycat. So a copycat is a singer who intentionally tries to sound or look, behave like the original recording or like their preferred version of the song. So it's someone who is like their goal is to sound just like the recording. This is problematic because instead of showing listeners who you are hiding behind your best impersonation of someone that they know. So instead of showing them you and your version and your way of doing things, you're showing them not even the person that they want, the person that they like, but you're showing them your best impression of the person that they like, right? So that's the copycat. And unless you're getting paid to be an impersonator, listeners are always going to prefer to listen to the original rather than listening to a copycat version. And like I said, unless you're getting paid to be an impersonator. So in other words, if you are going to an audition or if you are going to a competition and you are your aim is to sound exactly like the original, no one, we don't need that. We already have the original. We don't need someone else who sounds like that, right? So it's actually a more of a hiding kind of tool mechanism, and a lot of times that comes from a we'll talk about this in a minute, but it can come from a lack of confidence of that you have something to give, that you have something to show in that song. So anyway, that's the copycat. Number 2 is the chameleon. The chameleon is someone who unintentionally transforms their own sound into that of the one that they're most accustomed to hearing. So this is problematic for similar reasons as the copycat, which I'm sure you can imagine, but it's unintentional. It's something that happens unintentionally, so it's a much harder habit to break if you're a chameleon. And with chameleons, the other problem is that listeners have a hard time knowing who you are as a singer, as an artist, because you're always transforming into somebody else. You're always changing who you are, right? So let's say you're a chameleon and you give a concert of like 5 songs. If you're transforming into like a different sound every single time you sing, then your audience is like, they're thinking, well, this person does a lot of really great impersonations, but you as a singer, if you're a chameleon, you may not even know you're doing it. I have worked with, chameleon is one of the more common singing styles that I end up coaching people that don't recognize that they're doing it until someone else points it out. I've worked with a whole lot of chameleons. And then copycats I work with a lot of too, because a lot of times there's this unspoken belief that that's what's expected, that the listeners expect you to sound like the original, or to look like the original, or to behave like the original, rather than bringing your own flavor to it, right? So let's talk about number 3. The third singing style that can get you into trouble, and when it comes to achieving your goals, is what I call the cryptographer. So a cryptographer is someone who is hiding in a different way. They are putting so many riffs and so many embellishments into the original song that the melody becomes unrecognizable and unidentifiable. So they are hiding in a way like, well, I'm not really sure what to do this, so I'm going to just throw a whole lot of stuff on top of it. And sometimes it's done out of a desire to impress. Sometimes it's done because it's fun. But if the listener, here's why it's a problem. Listeners' ears get fatigued with cryptographers because they're trying to make out the melody in like a sea of riffing, and they're trying to find the melody. And so if their ears are getting fatigued, and especially if you're like, man, again, if you're doing like a concert of this, but even one song can feel like an eternity when you are listening to a cryptographer, because there's no, as a listener to music, we cling to that chorus. That chorus is that part, that sort of sense of home, of, the part that we relate to and want to jump in on. And if it's so completely changed into something else because of way too much embellishing, then we have nothing to kind of grab onto and be like, oh yeah, this is the part I like, or because we're trying to keep up and figure out where you are in the song, right? You don't want to do that to your listeners. It's a very hard way to get on their side, get them to pick you, to vote for you, to like you, to buy your records, if you are embellishing the crap out of everything you sing. So, again, those 3 types are the copycat, the chameleon, and the cryptographer. So I want to hear from you in the comments. Which one sounds like maybe something that you do? Are you resonating with any of these 3? So if you are singing in any of these 3 styles, know that it's completely normal. Almost every singer starts out in one of these three categories before finding their own style. But there are solutions. There are ways to leave that stuff behind and step into who you are and sing the songs with your own personal style. I touched on this a little bit ago, but a lot of singers, like I said, find themselves in one of these three categories because of insecurity, a feeling of, sometimes it's just easier to sound like somebody else, or a lack of knowing how to do it their own way. So let's just do it this way. This is what I know. I don't know how to do anything else. Lack of knowing how to step out is another reason. Lack of knowing how to step out and doing something your way. That's all your own. And here's what I want you to hear. It takes a lot of courage, especially if you're a beginning singer, but just period. It takes a lot of courage to sing something your way, from your point of view, instead of mimicking what you've heard or embellishing it beyond recognition. It takes a lot of courage to do that. It can be vulnerable to sing something your way, right? It's kind of like art. Nobody wants to buy a painting that an artist does of somebody else's work, or that somebody just completely, like they're saying that it's the Mona Lisa, their rendition of the Mona Lisa, but it's so completely transformed that it doesn't look like that at all, right? We want someone to give us something that is a representation of themselves, their point of view, how they see it. And every single person has a point of view. You have the ability, no two singers are going to sing a song exactly the same way, unless they're trying really hard to do that, right? You do have a point of view. So, if you're singing in one of these three styles, I want to talk to you. Last night in my No Limits Academy, we had our monthly workshop, which was on this very topic. And we learned about these three styles that I shared with you today that can get you into trouble if you're trying to reach a goal. We also learned how to develop our own style. And we learned how to begin applying that style that we created to your songs that you're singing, whether they're originals, whether they are covers. I also do this type of work with my private clients. Like I mentioned, it's something that you learn when you're in my world. It's just part of the deal, because I don't believe in default singing, and I don't believe in any of these three things being how you operate. I want you to be your own artist. That's the whole point, right? To have your own point of view, to express who you are. So if you don't have a style and you're singing in a default voice or any of the three that we mentioned, I do want to hear from you. I want to talk to you about this. Let's get you in my calendar to talk about the best option for getting you on a path to having your own style, to singing like you. You are far more interesting than anyone you are attempting to sound like. If that's you, go to getmypowerup.com and it'll ask you a few questions about you, what you're looking for, some of your goals, what you are like as a student, those kinds of things. And then it'll direct you to my calendar so that you can set up a time to get on a Zoom call with me so we can talk about all of those things and how I can help you achieve these things in your singing. So how I can help you get into style. And like I mentioned, I have an academy, which is how we do it in a group setting, which is honestly one of my favorite things that I do. And I also work with people one-on-one. So we can talk and figure out what's going to be the best option for you. And maybe there's something totally different that would be the best option for you that's not one of those two things. So set up a time to talk with me and we can figure out what that looks like. Style is the fun part. It's the expression part. It's a great way for you to express who you are, express yourself in your singing, and to make something totally yours. Those of you who are already signing up 4 times, I look forward to talking to you. If you haven't, go ahead and grab that link, set up a time to have a conversation with me, and let's get you on the path to creating your own vocal style.